Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Hiltz, and I want to welcome you to another week of the Apple Report. Last week we talked about federal impact as it relates to education, and this week I want to share some thoughts with regards to state and local government impact. Let me reiterate that the federal Constitution is silent when it comes to education. However, there is something called the 10th Amendment, which is referred to as states' rights. And it reads, "The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people." This is why I am of the mind that education is not a federal responsibility. Education is a state's responsibility. Another element that reinforces my thoughts on this is that all state constitutions have an article that's titled Education. And even though the articles vary from state to state, there are three basic components that are in all of them. The first one being who is to receive an education. The second one, the use of taxpayer funding. And the third one, I'll say, is who has authority over what. Now, these are pretty consistent with regards to all three of those being in state constitutions under their education article. So that's why I'm of the mind that education is a state and local level responsibility. Now, how does that break down from a state? How do you differentiate between state and local level responsibility? Well, at the state level, you've got your legislature and you've got your executive branch. And the legislature proposes bills, and the executive or the governor signs the bills that are passed or doesn't. Now, every year, every legislative cycle, there are thousands of bills that get proposed. Some pass, some don't. And out of those bills, there are thousands that revolve around education. Some of the issues involved include safety, curriculum, transportation, demographics, and a range of other things. So this is where the legislation gets proposed and passed and signed into law. And that is transferred into statute or code, which comes out of the the State Department of Education, because all states have a department that manages the education system within their jurisdiction. Now, how that policy or how that law gets transposed into statute or code, and then gets transferred into policy and passed down to the local level. This is where the rubber meets the road, as far as I'm concerned. Implementation is the hardest thing to deal with, and that's why it's important to be aware and to pay attention of the bills that are passing through the legislature. There's an array of elements or entities that are involved, but I will say that where the majority or the primary impact is at the local level. All children are assigned by their zip code to a public school. Now, all states have the basic three types of education: public, private, and homeschool. And yes, legislature does have an impact on private and homeschool, but in the majority of states, I'll say that it's minimal. It's more of a reporting requirement, or for homeschoolers, there's a letter of intent to homeschool that needs to be submitted to the local school division. But this is where it's important for parents and grandparents and those taxpayer citizens to be aware of what's going on in the schools. Pay attention to who you're electing to the school board and to your legislature as well. Because if you are interested in having alternative learning environments to public education, then the reality is that Republicans tend to be more favorable to school choice than Democrats. And so who you elect to your legislature and who you elect as your governor has an impact on the education system and the direction it will go. Who you elect to your school board is important as well. even though they don't run as a Republican or a Democrat in the majority of states, they run as an independent or nonpartisan. But the reality is that we all are human and we all have our biases and we all have our beliefs and understandings and perspectives. And so, yes, it does go onto the school board, and yes, it does drive certain elements with regards to things like curriculum and discipline and programs and things like that. So it's very important for you as a parent, a grandparent, or a taxpayer citizen, and a taxpayer citizen to understand who's being elected to your local school board and to your state legislature and your state governorship. It's also incumbent for you to pay attention to the curriculum that children are being taught, because that does drive what kind of citizens we're going to have for the future. And right now, there's a lot of debate and discussion about critical race theory and some other theories that are out there. And I would like to point out that those are theories. And we need to be aware and cognizant of what they're actually promoting or perpetuating. So there again, pay attention to who's on your school board, who's in your legislature, who's your governor, what their agendas are, what they are promoting. Attend school board meetings, write emails. You have the ability to have an impact by writing emails and making phone calls and participating in the process. So that, in a nutshell, is how state and local government impacts the education system, and why we as taxpaying citizens, whether we're parents or grandparents or neither, need to be engaged and involved. So I hope this was informative. Please like and share, and I will see you next time with another topic on education. Thank you.